But if we go through those 3 stages of due diligence, where we basically go through that initial basic research to figure out if the property is going to work, we check for liens in stage 2, and then in stage 3, we're doing our on-site evaluation, our comparative market analysis, and kind of our max bid. Uh, Through those 3 stages, we weed out the properties that aren't going to work, and we tend to get our properties at a good low percentage of value that is going to be profitable, and we can weed out most of the junk throughout those 3 stages as well. And so, yeah, and actually, it gets to the point where you can do the 3 stages of research pretty quickly. I mean, we can do stage 1 of due diligence usually within a minute or 2, and we can generally get stage 2 done within a couple minutes as well. So it's not uncommon to be able to get both of those knocked out of the way there within 5 minutes or so, and to be able to focus on properties that have the potential to work after that, which is generally what we try to do.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about Michigan, and then instead of just looking at one auction, we're going to go look at a couple of different properties and a couple of different sales. Most of the auctions are going to be taking place on one website, but there is a couple of counties that are rogue and doing it on their own. But Michigan is a great state to invest into. It has a bunch of benefits, in some ways even more benefits than New York does.
Yeah, well, so one of the things that they do is a little bit different is they're more organized in some ways than New York is. They're a tax deed state, so again, all the counties there basically hold their annual tax deed auctions once a year. But nearly all of the auctions, most of them, I mean, about 95% or more of the auctions are in one place, one website that basically holds, all of the Michigan sales. But what's also different about them though is that they send a county worker out there to every single property that goes up in for auction. They take pictures of every single property, they put a sign up at every single one, and they basically provide a synopsis of what's going on there with the property and anything that they see. And they tend to be pretty great. They're pretty good at doing property evaluations and at pointing out any potential problems that the property may have. They also include lots of images of the property, which is something again that makes Michigan unique. There are not too many states that provide us with current images and full images, including interior. And so all those things kind of add up to make Michigan opportunities pretty good. It's all online auction here. We get pretty good photos, and there's great properties there. We've been participating in the Michigan sales for a long time. Their sales are conducted or held on Tax-Sale.info. That's the website that I'm talking about, where nearly all of their auctions are conducted or held from. That makes it a lot easier for us as investors to go through and look at the properties, because it means there's one place that we need to go to. We don't have to go to a new county website for each sale. We can basically focus on one website and all the auctions they have coming on. But also, though, looking at some of these properties, Michigan has a very interesting inventory of properties coming up for auction. In fact, we're going to get a chance to look at many of them, because there is really interesting inventory here. And the Michigan sales basically go from August here and into September. So this is the time period here for the year. They're going to hold all these sales before they're going to do they'll hold a resale for anything that didn't sell after this, and lower the prices on everything. But basically now through the end of September is when we're going to have all of our Michigan deals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one thing that's nice about Michigan is that when they do the foreclosure, which is usually about 3 to 4 months before the auction, at that time, the redemption period or the chance for the property owner to redeem it has passed, which means that we don't have to be worried about those redemptions coming in. So once the list is available, we can start doing research on it. The reason we avoid that is because some of those properties are going to redeem. But in Michigan, that isn't the case, which really means that we can start doing our due diligence on it even earlier. We can pick which areas we want to. And like Shay talked about, it's all on one platform. They're going to provide photos, interior photos on many of the properties. If the property still has somebody in it, then there may be an eviction or something like that we'll have to work with after. Usually we'll first try to see if we can cash in for keys to get them to go ahead and move out. But if it's not, then we've got interior photos as well. We've got multiple photos of the outside. And Shay talked about those descriptions. Those are a huge help as well. In fact, sometimes I think the county is overcautious in their descriptions.
Yeah, I think they are too. I mean, at least they certainly will talk about any problems they see with the property, and they're very cautious about about exactly what they share here. Now, what we're looking at here are the sales. So the sales start on August 3rd, and they have the sales combined with different counties. So for the first sale, they have Arnock, Bay, and Gladwin County. And then we have the thumb area, they call it here, with all of these counties here. When we click on one of these, it'll show us the list here with all the properties that are listed there. Now, you can also set up an account on tax-sale.info. It's free to set up, but setting up an account allows you to see more pictures, more images of properties. And so, we can get complete full inside images and exterior images here of properties. We can tell if properties have problems here, major problems, or if they are decent properties. And we have a wide variety here of property types. I mean, for example, you can see we have a lot of homes and stuff here. We have properties that look like they're probably still being lived in, which we can tell in some cases here. They'll tell us if the property is still being lived in or not. And it looks like this one actually may have it. Let's see if this one has interior images here for us. Certainly, you can see they have a lot of exterior images showing us everything from the outside of the property here. We can see it has like a wheelchair accessible ramp there going in. We can still has the utilities there hooked up. Well, let's see if we've got, there we go.
Well, and what's interesting is they also pick out and take photos of anything negative on the property, multiple photos. And so it really helps us in determining what the interior condition is, which is going to help us make a better decision on what our max bid is going to be.
Yeah, which I mean, this is wonderful for us to see. We can tell when if there's a lot of personal items there at the property, or whether what the overall condition of the property is. And this property is in overall very good usable condition here, just like it is. I mean, at some point this kitchen was updated here, probably in the 90s or early 2000s here. Um, and the other things we can see about the property is it's all dry. We don't see any major problems here with it being wet. It's in need of some rehab stuff, but it's part of it. If you look at stuff like that's a new bathtub already that they just installed. It looks like here. It looks like they pulled the toilet here. Somebody was doing remodel work on this property already. You've got some old wood floors there, but you see that it's quite a few interior images that we get of the property here, as well as some other details. Now, what's nice is we've got this with every single one of these properties that they have, at least with the interior, things like homes. If the property is accessible and they can get inside it, then they will take interior images. If it's still occupied, then they'll just say that it's occupied, and they'll take a bunch of pictures from the outside. But it's also not just uh, residential stuff. It's also commercial properties. It's farm properties. I mean, this right here's a good example. This is a storage building on 20 acres. And they've got the SEV set at 39,000. That stands for state equalized value. It's about half. Basically, you need to double it in order to figure out what the assessed is. So they would say the assessed on this is about uh, about 78,000 is about where they would put the assessed on this. But if we look at it,
Yeah, I would say the market is 3 to 4 times that.
yeah, probably, and probably easily here. So yeah, they are showing us here that they've got access to water. The building itself is fairly new construction. We can see that just kind of by looking at it, that it is relatively new construction. And they also talk about the building there in the comments. They've got quite a few uh, things to say here about it. You see all the utilities here, and there's also still personal property in there. Clearly, there's still, they still have their tractor in here. They still have, it's a humongous building. You can see that they did have all this work performed. They have cooling in the building as well.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know the cost of that building, but I would think it would had to have been, probably 3 to 400,000. I would think by the size of it and everything that's involved with it, it would take a lot of money to replace it. And like Shay talked about, it's new, So this is why looking into the market value is so important. But then if we go down and look at the comments, I'm sure they'll tell us a lot more about it as well.
Yeah, and they tell us exactly where it's, how it's located at. This appears to have been a location for processing plants, possibly a site for growing as well. But most of the equipment has been cleaned up, mostly full of drying racks. There is farm equipment parked inside and around the building, large commercial pump system and upgraded electrical panels, 3 100 amp modern panels. Uh, Electric meter is still hooked up. The concrete pad on this building is immaculate. The building was very cool and it was hot and sunny outside. This thing must be very well insulated, aluminum exterior and interior. The building is separated by 2 large rooms. Electrical outlets are plentiful. This is a beautiful built building and could have many uses. The people who built this seem to know their stuff. Property also has 20 acres of mostly flat land. The possibilities with this are endless. Um, yeah, and they even say there, don't miss this one. This is a great opportunity for an adjacent landowner to increase their property size, or could be the location for a fresh build. If you're considering development, please contact local planning or zoning. And they're right about that. This would be ideal for, let's say, an adjacent owner to pick up or to go after. Yeah, yeah, I think this is a pretty cool property here. Oh, and by the way, the tax deed evaluator here that we've got pulled up here, I think that's on the coaching forms page here. We'll pull that
And
up here in a minute.
and the members form.
Oh, yes. Yes, and the members form here. Uh, in fact, yeah, we'll see if we can pull it up here for you. Now, there are quite a few incredible sales here. It might be interesting just to pull up a few of these properties here and take a look at them. So let's go. All right, let's do this. Let's go down here and so among these sales here, let's look at lot 1147. And it is this property right here. There we go. So this here is a 2-story house with a garage on 12 acres. We can see that it does sit on 12 acres. If we want to see about what the land looks like that it's sitting on, we can see the property boundaries right there. About what the lot looks like. And I think this one was being lived in here at the time as well. So I don't know if they've got interior images of this one. I think that they do. But what we can see is the SEV. So the property starts for 11,000. The SEV on it is at 96,000. So we could roughly double that to figure out what the assessed is on it, which is going to be about 190,000 roughly. And we know that it's the property itself appears to be pretty solid. Looks like it's livable and in usable condition here as is. But we also know that the land around it also looks pretty good.
And there's so many different examples like this. It is just really being able to see more about the property is such a big benefit. We've always talked about, with tax sale investing, you do have to judge the book by the cover. We're trying to look at the outside and make a determination of what the interior looks like. We're trying to get as many photos as we can from the street. So we try to get as many angles as we can. But this way, they're able to legally walk around the property. They're able to get the photos. If there's any type of details that need to be looked at, they include that, which means that, in this case, maybe I'm willing to pay more on a property than I normally would just by looking at the outside, because I can see the interior is actually really clean. So my rehab costs are going to be lower. So I'm willing to bid a little bit higher.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on some of these properties, it's going to justify it based on condition. Other properties are kind of oddballs or have unique opportunities. So, for instance, this is one that has both it has commercial and residential property on it. This is a commercial lot with an auto shop on it, but it also has a separate home that is attached to it. So, let me see if I can show you here, kind of an overhead here of the property and about where it's located at here. And yeah, what you'll be able to see is we have this part is the auto shop, that we can see here. It has this nice bay door here.
It looked like it had a good size lot as well to it.
Yeah, it is a pretty good sized lot. And then this is the residential home that is sitting next to the shop. And so this is both a commercial property and, a residential property as well. And it opens up at about 20,000. The SEV on it is 107,000. So about 214 is about what the assessment on the property is, depending on what it bids up to. But you can see that is a property that's going to have some opportunity with it.
Yeah, well, and we always recommend, like we talked about in stage 3 due diligence, to go through and look for good comparables, good properties that have sold, so that we know actually what the value is. Because some of these, maybe, let's say the assessed value is 100 grand and it's maybe only worth 105 or 110. And in different counties, that assessed value may be totally different. Like that was a beautiful home that you were looking at earlier, Shade. I don't know when it was a really new looking home, but
Yeah.
uh, in that case, maybe it's worth 50 or $100,000 more when we actually look at the comps. So the assessed value, the Zillow value, the Redfin, that just gives us an idea. We're going to find out from there what it's actually valued at to determine what our high bid's going to be.
Here's another interesting one. So this one is it's a two-story house on 4.25 acres that's on the river. But what's interesting about this house is that it was basically it was abandoned, or they left the house after they did everything on it. But you can see that the house was a kind of a newer construction, had a lot of newer work on it. We can see all the new work here that is done on it. It had kind of a separate garage and shop space there to it. Along actually had a couple of different separate garages and shop space here to it. Uh, and let me just show you here. So it was abandoned. It's been abandoned for a little bit. You can tell that it's a little bit overgrown. But at the time that they were there, they sunk a lot of money into this property. I mean, that's a brand new AC system that we can see hooked up there on the outside, along with utilities there from this image. Brand new windows. You can see, I think it's got a well here on it. And they also have interior images. We can see there's also solar, that's been
Yeah, I was going to
installed here
say
on the
the
property.
solar, and
Yeah,
then you've got, all of that big skylight up at the top as well.
yeah. And it's clear that they were doing, there was work that was ongoing with this property. It was probably, an ongoing project here. You can see it still has a couch that is inside there, and some of the furnishing are still there. But here we can see the interior of the property. And yeah, this is definitely one that somebody probably, they built maybe long term. They were doing things here to finish up the property, but it turned out pretty nice, and it's pretty well a property that's usable as is. There isn't really much of anything you would need to do to this property to change it in order to make it usable. It pretty much is usable just like it is. It's just a matter of getting the utilities hooked up. But everything here is pretty much usable just like it is.
There's a furnace sitting right over. Oh, maybe that's a second furnace.
Yeah, in fact, there's two of them
Oh
there.
yeah, there's two furnaces. You
Hmm.
know, that garage as well, that it it may be just a big garage, but there could be some type of office or living space at there where the door was at. So, another example of a property that we know more information on, so we may be willing to pay upwards of 40 to 45 cents on the dollar for something like this, because once we determine the market value, we can still see, hey, there's $120,000, $150,000 worth of profit. But we're only going to pay that higher amount when we're talking about properties that are worth more than a couple of 100,000.
This property has all this stuff up there above, which I'm not sure if that's drying stuff up there or if it's hanging
I
stuff.
think it's I think it's the sprinkler system. Well, maybe you're right. I first thought it was a sprinkler system, like
Yeah,
for fire.
I think they did. I mean, I think they were doing a large scale grow operation here. At least, we see some of these large containers here for with stuff in it. Yeah, you can see it is a nice lot. Oh, and the property is right on the river as well. It actually has a dock and a slip there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, nice property there. You know, it starts at 23,000, has an SCV of 151, so assessed on it is about 300,000 or so. But you know, this looks like they'll definitely be going to auction. There's another furnace right there. It has quite a few furnaces here on this property.
Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah, yeah, quite interesting. But there's so many properties though that I think are very cool properties. You know, very usable properties here. Oh, let's look at one more here. Uh, in Algier County here.
Yeah, I mean, really, we could spend an entire day, just looking at awesome deal after awesome deal that are coming up within the next 30 to 45 days.
Yeah, I mean, so many awesome ones. So check out, there's also acreage all over. I mean, you see that we've got 10 acres here. We have 6.3 acres here. You know, you've got all of these, you've got nice acreage properties here. There's a farmhouse here with 18 acres right here. This right here is another farmhouse here sitting on 46 acres. And this one has an SEV of 93,000. So we probably put the assessed value at about 196 is about what we would say here on it. And we go to look at it, and yeah, another property that's in great shape, has a ton of land. Look how big that building is, and
Yeah, that's
that's a metal
massive.
roof on it. You know, somebody added the metal roof here to it. Um,
I don't know if it's stables or a big garage. Oh,
no,
it's a
but that's
big garage.
yeah. There's a big garage there as well with this property. Yeah, we can see with this house. It's a modular home. You can kind of tell, you know, a modular home design
with
here.
with additions.
Yeah, and a full basement basically that
Yeah,
is.
basement on it. That's kind of,
Mhm.
rare with the manufactured home.
Well, and with a full foundation, like it has you know, it has a fully poured foundation basement there with windows and everything, and it's dry. Oh yeah, and there's the big, you know, the big building there with the big bay there. So yeah, it probably is big enough to fit some stuff in.
It almost looks like they built it but didn't quite finish it because it looks
Yeah,
like it's pretty new construction. The wood all looks new on there. They've got everything done. They just didn't put in those windows yet.
yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one there where you can get the property and, you know, 46 acres there with it, you know, so it has kind of the best of both worlds there. There's that one with 18 acres here of, of usable land there as well. So we can see this one is at SEV of 52,000. It opens up at 55. So basically they valued it about 100,000, 104,000. And you can see that it has a great lot here with it. Right here. And the house also looks like it's fairly usable here, but I think it's 18 acres here. No interior images, but what we can see from the outside is kind of the same things where we see, you know, newer roof, newer siding, newer windows. You know, the property has been updated or upkept here at some point, and so it definitely makes the property more appealing. There are all kinds of these. In fact, my favorite property here, I think in the entire sale, my favorite property here is in the Thumb area. And I don't know why this property is in the auction. You can see there are some clean houses, you know, that are in this sale. This one's nice waterfront property there that is just very nice. This one's a very nice waterfront property here that is, you know, coming up for auction. I mean, all these properties here are just awesome properties.
Yeah, those are pretty incredible.
Yeah, and more of them here. You know, again, this one is another nice single family home. Nice single family home. These are all nice single family homes. But there is, oh, let's see here. The one I want is 6412. Uh,
Yeah, we'll look at one more and then we'll answer any questions and kind of wrap it up. But hopefully this has been educational for you guys. We love seeing investors go out there and make money with tax sale investing. We've been kind of doing this our whole adult lives. We love seeing people have success. We love getting testimonials. So that was an interesting one right there.
Yeah, this is my favorite one right here. I don't know why this is up for sale, and the SCV is most certainly wrong. It's not correct at all. So this sits on 13.5 acres, and they say the SCV on it's 52,000, which would put the value at 104,000. But it's just not accurate. If we take a look here at it, this is a brand new construction, and it looks to me like it's a man cave house. Like if you were going to turn your man cave into a house, that's what this would be. This is a man cave house because most of it is garage.
Yeah, me and Shade have been drooling over this one for weeks.
Yeah, it's a huge building here with tons of space, on a nice big lot. It's brand new, done, and yeah, they have listed here like it's definitely going to go up for auction. I mean, you can tell just from the size of those two bay doors right there, it can fit a lot of space there. We'll see what it sells for, but it's definitely way nicer than 104,000. It's probably worth more like 300,000.
Oh, I think even more than that. I mean, that building alone it's massive. It probably tells us how many square feet it is, but to replace that, to rebuild that, I don't know how you could do in all of the concrete work and I don't know how you could do that for less than $500,000.
Yeah, and I think that's probably true. Yeah, and so if the property does sell at auction, it is going to sell for a great price, I'm sure. But there's a lot of properties in the sale that could sell at great prices and that are a really good opportunities. So many of these houses here, you could probably pick up for 20, 30,000, maybe, maybe slightly more. So some of them maybe slightly less. And these are usable houses just like they sit right now. I mean, there are going to be some good deals that'll be coming up here in these sales, and all these sales happen in the next 4 weeks.